5 Starters for a Strong Team, episode 610. Thank you, Discovery Education, for sponsoring today's show. At the end of the show, I'll tell you about 2 free contests for your grades 5 through 12 students in the U.S. The Stanley Black & Decker Making for Good Student Challenge and the CITGO Fueling Education Student Challenge. Stay tuned.
The 10-Minute Teacher Podcast with Vicki Davis. Every weekday, you'll learn powerful, practical ways to be a more remarkable teacher today.
Today, we're talking with Jamy Bechler. He is the host of Success is a Choice podcast and author of Leadership Playbook and also The Bus Trip. And The Bus Trip is a book I would definitely recommend for every coach. You might even want to do a book study with your team because there's so many nuances about leading a team and it's just so hard. So today, Jamy, we're talking about 5 starters for a strong team. And when you say team, we're talking about sports teams and leadership teams, right?
Yeah, it can really be anything, Vicki. We're almost always involved in a team, unless you're just someone that essentially lives in your basement and never interacts with people. You're always dealing with a team. It might even just be a family unit, but businesses, organizations, sports teams, which I'm most familiar with, having been a coach for nearly 20 years at the college level.
So where do we start?
Well, the 5 starters for a strong team. The first thing that I want to kind of get out of the way is one of these starters or one of these principles is not something that you would think it would be. And that's having the right team members. And that's just an assumed that you have to have the right team members if you want to have the best possible team. But a lot of us in our situations with our teams, we don't get to pick our teams. And so that's something that's for another day, another podcast. We can go in depth about that. What I'm going to talk about is once you have your team. So the very first thing is you have to know what your purpose is, what your values is, and then you have to intentionally live those out. And that's the important thing. Almost everybody has values or a purpose, these core values. They write it on the wall, 7 things, 5 things. They have all these posters on their locker room or in their office. What we have to really do is we have to understand that we have to consistently practice what we preach. And we got to turn these core values into habits. So intentionally live them out every day. And I fly a lot. And one of my airline of choice is Southwest Airlines. And Southwest Airlines has this awesome thing, bags fly free. And they don't charge you for bags, which is awesome. But a few years ago, they had this consultant come in, and this consultant was like, you guys are leaving so much money on the table. You have got to charge for bags. And they almost went with it. And then they decided, what is our core value? What's our mission? And our mission is to connect people with those people that are most important to them through low cost, reliable travel. And they figured that if they started charging for bags, they would no longer be low cost. They would no longer be connecting people at a cheap value price. And so they stuck with their core values. And you can see that lived out every day. What are those 2 or 3 things that are most important? And then you have to live those out every day. And you're going to get what you emphasize and live out, or you're going to get what you ignore and you allow.
Well, and you and I both know our pastor, Michael Catt, who told me about your book. And we have the core mission of the church. And he has core sayings. One of them is whoever wants the next generation the most will get them. And he's constantly repeating it. It's in the videos. It's in everything. And great teachers are repeaters. I was taught that by Betty Shiver, my curriculum director in my first school. But I think great leaders are repeaters. You think you've said it so many times, but you may not have said it enough, huh?
You may not have said it enough. You may not have said it the right way. And people hear differently at different points in their life. They listen differently. Sometimes they have so much baggage going on, or there's so many other noises going on that they don't hear what you say right then, or the dots don't get connected. And so you're right. You're absolutely right. We have to keep repeating things over and over again. At least that's what I keep telling my wife. Eventually I will pick up those socks. Well, the next thing is develop leaders. And we don't think about this on a strong team, or if we do, we think of, all right, we're going to develop our captains, or we're going to develop these 2 or 3 best salespeople, or the 2 or 3 people that I can't do without. The problem is you can't do without anybody on a team. You need everybody. And so you have to develop leaders and multiply influence. You got to coach them up. And one of the things I teach is you got to do equip, you got to enrich, and you got to empower. And when you're going to develop leaders and you're going to multiply influence on your team, you've got to equip them. And most people do a decent job of that. That's kind of the onboard training, or I'm going to teach someone how to do. I'm going to train someone how to do their job. But then you have to enrich them. that means you really have to get into their lives and help coach them along the way. So this goes beyond their onboard training. You have to enrich their life, enrich what they're doing, help them be better along the way, not just teach them, how to be competent. And then the third thing is empower them. And that's where you really get into this developing leaders idea, is that you want to empower the people around you. You want to empower your team, because you can't do it all the time. There's going to be times when the CEO, the manager, the supervisor, the coach, the captain is not going to be around. And so you don't want just compliant followers. You want leaders. You want people that have influence. And if you're not teaching them that, if you're not developing that, then what's going to happen at the water cooler? What's going to happen in the break room? What's going to happen for a sports team in the back of the bus? We're talking about the bus trip, the book. What happens in the back of the bus, in the locker room, in the cafeteria, in the dorm room? You are definitely going to have issues come up. You're going to have some drama. Now it's going to be on a scale. The better programmed organization teams are going to have less drama, but you're still going to have some drama. And so my question is, are you giving your people fire extinguishers, or are you giving them lighter fluid? Because issues are going to come up. There's going to be these, metaphorically speaking, these fires that happen, and how are they going to be equipped to deal with those? And if you're not equipping them, enriching them, and then empowering them, essentially developing leaders. And a lot of times leaders will say, hey, I want great followers. These people need to do what they're supposed to do. And it's like, yeah, that's fine. That's a base. That's a starting point in a way. But what we really want, we don't want followers. We want to develop more leaders, because the more leaders you have on your team, then the more positive influence, and you're going to be able to go a lot farther.
Excellent. I love that. Equip, enrich, empower. A lot to dig into there, especially as I think about my classroom. Okay, what's our third?
Third is enthusiastically add value. I was in 7th grade. I had this friend of mine, Bill. We were doing this group assignment together, and Bill was a mess up in life. He would never get in good grades, always in trouble, but he did a great job on this group project. He and we turned it in. Teacher turned it back. I got an A, Bill got an F. And I'll never forget the teacher saying, Bill, there's no way that you did this work, because Jamie's always doing well and you are never doing well in school. And, as a 7th grader, I didn't do anything about that. I was like, man, that's not fair. Fast forward 4 years later, and Bill killed 2 people, cold-blooded murder, made some bad decisions. And here's the thing. This is an extreme example. I have no idea what Bill's life would have been like if that teacher had given him the grade that he deserved. But I know for 100% fact that there was at least one time in Bill's life that there was a teacher that could have added value, that could have lifted him up, that could have spoke into him, and they failed to do that. And I don't know what would have happened, but I know that there was a failure there. And as coaches, as leaders, as teachers, we're constantly, it might not be a life or death thing, but we're constantly faced with having these opportunities to add value to the people around us and make maybe their lives better. And we might be the only person that's ever said a kind word or made them smile or said, hey, you can do it. I'm dating this, and I know we shouldn't date podcasts, but tonight Clemson's playing in the national championship. And Dabo Swinney for Clemson is known as a guy that's an overbeliever, and he took a exception a couple of years ago when someone said, you're an overachiever. He goes, no, I'm just an overbeliever. I believe in my people so much. And there's this book called Catch Them Being Good. It's a great book about just finding ways to catch people being good. And so, if you want a great, strong team, then you got to add value to every single member on that team and figure out what inspires them, how to inspire them, and how to make their lives a life of significance.
We can speak life. We can speak encouragement, and our words absolutely have power. These are great. What's our fourth, Jamie?
Connect. And this is something that a lot of people don't do. And I don't think it's easy for a lot of us, but we need to connect. If we're going to have a strong connection with people, and we need to do that because we are in the sales business. Everybody listening to this podcast is in the sales business. Now, you might not be selling a used car, but you're selling an idea. You're selling a belief of some kind. And people aren't going to buy unless they know, like, and trust you. And they're not going to know, like, and trust you unless there's a strong connection there. And a lot of times I think that connection begins with understanding them, seeing their perspective, knowing where they come from. And I think of Stephen Covey in that book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And he talks about seek first to understand, then to be understood. how many times do we go through life and we're only seeing our perspective? We're only seeing our tree and not the whole forest. And there's a disconnect between adults and teenagers, between administrators and teachers, between husbands and wives, coaches and parents. We're all a team to a degree. Even that last one, coaches and parents, we're all a team trying to lead and inspire and develop young people to be our future leaders and our future generation. And we can't do that if we don't understand where the other side is coming from. And we're not going to be able to have the tough love without a strong bond. We're not going to be able to sell somebody something if we're not connected with them. And I think that that's so important. I think that so many times we just are seeking to be understood ourselves. We're seeking to get our point across as opposed to seeking to understand where somebody else is coming from. And as leaders, we struggle with this all the time, whether it's in the classroom, whether it's an administrator forgetting what it's like to teach, whether it's a coach forgetting what it's like to be 16 years old, it doesn't matter.
And it so much ties up to your first one of being united in our purpose and our values and living it out together as a united team. So what's our fifth?
Share the responsibility. I love the phrase collective responsibility. We're responsible to each other. We're responsible for the collective whole together. And team, it's a team. I know it's cliche, but the acronym together, everyone achieves more. But share the responsibilities. As a leader, as a coach, man, clarify and celebrate those roles. See how everything works together and then show that to your players. Show that to your team members that they can't do stuff without each other. And I love the Mother Teresa quote. She says, "You can do what I cannot do and I can do what you cannot do. Together, we can do great things." And I love that. And with my teams, a lot of times, or now I'm consulting and working with sports teams and companies, we'll talk about cars. Inevitably, somebody that loves cars. And we'll talk about, hey, you've got this $100,000 car, but a $5 spark plug can ruin that car or you can't drive that car. And, so these $5 spark plugs are very important. Every piece of that car is important for it to operate effectively. And on the same team, we're all needed to operate effectively. And a lot of times coaches, leaders, we only recognize the star player. We recognize that person that scored that touchdown or hit that home run or scored that basket. And we're not reinforcing what we're preaching all week about team, because team is tough. It's sacrifice, and they don't want to sacrifice. Nobody comes to work and says, "Hey, I want to sacrifice so the boss gets rich." Or no player comes to practice and says, "Hey, I want to work really, really, really hard today so that I don't get to play tomorrow in the game." They don't want to sacrifice without being recognized, without being praised, without being celebrated. And so I think we just need to do a better job as leaders. If we want a strong team, we got to celebrate together. We got to overcome obstacles together. We got to win together, lose together. We just got to share in these responsibilities.
And there's so many things that we learn in sports as we apply them back and forth. I know for me, this past weekend, I ran the furthest I had ever run. I'm training for a half marathon and way to celebrate turning 50, right? So it was 9.8 miles. I was like, this is the hardest thing I've ever done. Like, this is so hard. Let me go back and have a baby. Babies are easier than this. But when you have those experiences that push you to your limit, you learn what life is about. And life is not easy, and team does require sacrifice. But I tell you, if you ever get lucky enough and fortunate enough to be on a team that is unified, that people sacrifice and work together, it is about as close to heaven as you can get on earth. It is just completely awesome. So building a strong team is a noble calling, because you not only make your organization better, you serve those you are serving better. People are happy to come to work. People love working together. Building a strong team is an important thing to do. And Jamy can help us do that. So he's the host of Success is a Choice podcast, author of The Bus Trip, which is the book I'm reading now, and The Leadership Playbook, which I think will probably be another book that I'm going to read. Thanks, Jamy. Discovery Education has 2 student challenges happening now. The Stanley Black & Decker Making for Good Student Challenge runs now through Thursday, January 30th, 2020, for students in grades 9 through 12. This STEAM challenge invites students to design a blueprint for a product that could improve our world while following the 6-step engineering design process. Learn more at coolcatteacher.com/maker challenge. The CITGO Fueling Education Challenge for students in grades 5 through 8 asks students to create a STEM solution to improve our world. They will make a short video sharing their sustainability solution and the process they used to create it, now through February 13th, 2020. Learn more at coolkiteteacher.com/sustain. Students love an audience and love a challenge with cash prizes. And here are 2 fantastic challenges from Discovery Education. I hope you'll join in.